Welcome to Vishesh Educational Videos. In this video, I am explaining one of the important topics of database management systems, that is advantages of DBMS. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like and share. So let me begin the explanation of advantages of DBMS. So the first advantage of DBMS is controlling redundancy. So to explain this, so I'll take up the example of file processing, right? You can see here, in this I have three files. So if you are using a file processing approach suffers from redundancy. Redundancy means what? You can see here there are three files. All the three files contain the same information, that is XYZ. So all the three files contains same information XYZ, and the three files, one file is maintained by mechanical department, one file is maintained by CSE department, and one file is maintained by EC department. You can see there three files contains the same information, right? So it contains the same information, but the same information is repeated in three places. So this is redundancy. So redundancy means you are storing the same information in different places. If you use a file processing system, then the file processing system suffers from redundancy. But in database, I can avoid that redundancy. I can control that redundancy. How? You can see here. So the information XYZ, only one copy is maintained in the database, right? Only one copy is maintained in the database. The same copy is accessed by mechanical department also, CSD department also, EC department also. You can see there in the diagram. You can see instead of three same copies, I'm using the single copy. I'm using the single copy here. So thereby I can avoid the duplication of data. That means same data is not copied at different locations. So in this way I can avoid the redundant data if you use a database approach. This is one of the main advantages of right, DBMS. Getting, guys? So you can see there. So on the but one more important thing you have to know here, redundancy is sometimes is necessary. Redundancy is sometimes necessary. Why means redundancy sometimes can be used to improve the performance of queries. So you know that indexes are nothing but addresses, right? So indexes are nothing but they are repeated informations. For example, in books, you can see there in the at the end of the book there will be indexes. Indexes contains the same informations, but using that indexes you can move from one part of the book to another part of the book very easily. Same applies to database also. Here you have to maintain the indexes. While maintaining the indexes, you are storing the same informations, but by using the indexes you can move very easily inside the database. That's why redundancy is sometimes necessary. Indexes are redundant here, but it helps to move very easily inside the database, right? So redundancy, you avoid the redundancy if you use a DBMS approach, that is database approach. So you can see here, right? Next, that is the first advantage. Second advantage is restricting unauthorized access. Restricting unauthorized access means if you want to use a DBMS, you can give a authentication feature. Authentication feature means you can give a username and password feature. So user with proper password and username can access the database. A user who don't have any username and password, he can't use the database. That is nothing but a restricting of unauthorized access. You are allowing the people, those who are having only the proper credentials. So you are thereby you are giving the security to your database, right? Getting, guys? So this is another advantage of DBMS. So what are the restrictions? you can give restrictions to like read only access. Read only access means user can only read the contents of the database, but he can't make any changes to the database. That is one type of right security, and thereby along with that you can give username also and password also. And also you can give some limited restrictions. Limited restrictions means only the admin can do all the changes, but only the users can do only selected changes. Like you can give that updations permissions also only for selected users. Thereby you can avoid the right uh, leaking of sensitive data here. Getting guys, this is the advantage of DBMS. If you use DBMS, you can restrict the unauthorized access. That is the second advantage. Next, third advantage is providing persistent storage for program objects. So here, see, in a simple words, persistent storage means, right, data needs to be stored permanently. Persistent storage means data has to be stored permanently. Here data is not temporary. Suppose if you want to store the data in the database permanently, you can store the data of the database in the secondary storage devices like hard disk or a CD or a DVD. Yes, you can do that. That is one more advantage of the DBMS. If you want the data for the future purpose, you can store the data of the DBMS or a database in the secondary storage devices, right? The data will be stored permanently in the secondary storage devices like disk, right? So thereby if you want the data for the future, you can easily use that without any problem. Even if you terminate the database, no worries, the data will be stored in the secondary storage devices. You can retrieve that for the future. So this is the third advantage if you are using the database approach. Next advantage is your DBMS provide storage structures for efficient query processing. Now you can ask a question, what is a query? So I will explain about the queries in detail in the coming videos. But the query means nothing but they are the small programs mainly used to interact with the database. How you are going to interact with the database means you can write the queries to interact with your database. You can do changes as you want by writing the queries. You can do any updations you want by writing the queries. But here, queries for the efficient query processing, your DBMS maintains indexes. So how it maintains indexes means using a trees or array or a hash table, right? You can see here. You can see here the queries are stored in a list. This is a hash table. Here queries are stored. You can see there in this hash table, three queries are stored. Query 1, query 2, query 3, and each right query is having the address. You can see here for three queries, different addresses are allotted here. Query 1 will having 111 is the address. Query 2 address is 121. Query 3 address is 123. So here DBMS provides this feature. Thereby I can easily thereby I can easily fetch the queries. How I can fetch the queries means by using the indexes 111, 121, 123. These are the indexes. So if you use a DBMS approach, DBMS maintains a separate indexes using the hash table. Thereby I can easily find out any queries, right? So many queries will be there, right? So if any number of queries are also there, no problem for me. I can easily find out the query using these addresses or indexes. That is the advantage if you are using a DBMS approach, right guys? So you can ask a question, what is the advantage here? What is the advantage means you can easily find out the query, thereby the execution time will be reduced. The execution time will be reduced. Alright, getting guys? So for each query there will be execution plan. You can see here, along with storing the query, DBMS also maintains the execution for each query. That execution plan means the code, how to execute that query. Those things will also be there in this hash table along with the indexes. Thereby I can easily process my query. Thereby I can reduce the execution time. Execution time will be reduced. Obviously indexes will be there. You can fastly locate the query and execution time will be reduced. So that is the advantage. So next advantage is, if you use a database approach provides backup and recovery. Backup and recovery means what? Backup means you have to store the contents of your database in a secondary storage device. I told you, right? When any problems, when any problem occurs, for example, catastrophic failures. Catastrophic failures means power failures. When power failures occurs, if something happens to my database, right, when there is a backup, you can recover that backup. Recover means you can again recover the contents of that database. You can do recovery. Recovery means you can take up the backup and you can recover that contents again into the database. So if you use a DBMS approach, so providing backup and recovery is one of the important feature of the database. When system crash happens, you can easily take the backup and you can usually recover the database to the previous safest state. Getting, guys? Example, I can give an example of ATM. When you're using ATM, if suddenly power goes off, the amount should not be detected in the ATM, right? The amount should be updated properly, right? That is nothing but backup and recovery. Your amount will be updated to the previous safest state, like that. This is the advantage if you use a database approach. Next, providing multiple user interfaces. I already told you database can be used by multiple users, different users, end users. So in the previous video I have discussed about the end users, right? Sophisticated end users, parametric end users, standalone end users. So different end users are going to use the database. For each user I have to provide separate user interfaces. You can see here, for example, for query language interface for casual users, because they won't use the database frequently. So I can give the interface in the form of query languages. Programming language interfaces for application programmers. Application programmers means software engineers. For them the interface is different. I'm not going to give the query language interface for them. I'm going to use the programming language interfaces, because query language is simple. It is suited for casual users. Programming language interfaces are suited for programmers, because they are expert in programming language, right? So their interface is different. And for parametric users, forms means you can know that, right? You know that, right? Sorry, text boxes, radio buttons, like that. Very simple. And for parametric users, I can give commands like F12, F1, function keys. Parametric users means because they use the same function so many times, right? That's why I can use that function keys, F1, F2, like that. So you can observe here, for different users I am giving the interfaces in a different ways. Getting, guys? So for a standalone means for a personal database I can give the interface as GUI, graphical user interfaces, right? It will be easy for them, right? Getting, guys? For multiple users, for different users, the interfaces will be different. This is the right advantage of DBMS. Next, if I am using a DBMS, one of the advantages I can represent the relationship among the data. If I am in DBMS, along with storing the data, I can represent the relationship among the data. You can see here, this is the simple example. This is a simple relationship I can represent if you are using the data. Not only this, you can represent more complex relationships also if you are using a database approach, right? So you can see here, professor and student data is there. I can establish the relationship between professor and student data. So what is the relationship? Professor teaches the student. This is the relationship. What is the relationship name here? Teaches. Getting, guys? So if you are using a database approach, you can represent this type of relationships. It's easy for you. So in the coming videos, you will understand in a more detailed way here. So professor is the data, student is a data. Between the professor and student data, I'm establishing a relationship here. So teachers is the relationship. Professor teaches the students. Getting guys? I can represent this type of relationship if I'm using a database approach. Next, enforcing integrity constraints and right integrity constraints. If I say integrity constraints in DBMS, there are two types actually: entity integrity constraint, referential integrity constraint. To explain this in a very easy manner, I take up this example. So I already told you, right? So if I say integrity constraint, there are two types of integrity constraints here: entity integrity constraint, referential integrity constraint. To explain this, I'm taking the data, two different types of data here: employee data and the department data. So I'm storing both employee data and the department data in the form of tables, because you know that I'm using a relational database. So here integrity constraints can be used if you are using a database approach. I told you integrity means entity integrity is also there, referential integrity is also there. So entity integrity means what? You can see here. So in this employee table, I'm storing the three types of details regarding the employee. I'm storing the employee ID, I'm storing the employee name, I'm storing the employee age here. So I can put some conditions here, that is integrity conditions. Integrity conditions means what? You know that for every employee there will be ID, right? The ID can't be empty. The ID can't be empty for the employee, because ID is the identification number. By using that identification number, I can easily identify the employee. That's why it can be called as a primary key. I will explain this in detail in the coming sessions, don't worry. So primary key, right, can't be empty. Primary key is mainly used to identify that particular entity. I will explain what is entity, all those things, don't worry. So far you should understand that entity is nothing but the information. So far, don't get confused. I will explain that in detail in the coming sessions. So here, this ID of the employee can't be empty. How it can be empty, right? That is the condition. This is the integrity constraint. Entity integrity constraint. The ID of the employee can't be empty. So you can see here, I can put these conditions if you are using a database approach, right? I can tell my database that primary key, that is ID of the employee, can't be empty. I can tell that to the database. Syntaxes, all those things I will explain. So thereby you can write, I can provide consistency, I can provide integrity. So user, if a user, right, leave that field as a blank, database won't allow that. The database will notify the user saying that you can't leave this as empty. You can't leave this as empty. Please enter these details, like that. Getting guys? So I can put conditions. I can put conditions. I can enforce the conditions to my database. No problem, right? Next. Sorry. Next. Next is referential integrity constraint. This is also integrity constraint only. So first one is entity integrity. There you can see there uh, I can't put any field as empty, right? So here referential integrity, what it tells means, you can see here. So I'm using the employee ID in the department table also. You can see there in the department table, department name is there, department ID is there, employee ID is there, and department location is there. So yeah, referential integrity, what it tells means, see, yeah, the ID of the employee table is also used in the department table. So if you are using the right attribute of the one table in the other table, the referential integrity means mainly used to join two different tables. Here how I am joining two tables? By using the ID attribute. When I use the ID attribute of the employee table in the department table, what happens? Both the data will be joined, right? So in the when you're using this type of referential integrity, when you're using the same attribute in two different tables, what it tells means, referential integrity, what it tells means, you have to use the same values that are present in the first table. When you're using the attribute in the second table, You can see ID is used in the department table. You can observe there the values. What is the values of ID here? 1, 2, 3. You can see 1, 2, 1. I'm using the same values of ID that are present in the employee table in the department table also. This is very important. This is nothing but referential integrity. I can't use the different values, right, that are not present in the first table. The second table data needs to be within the data that is present in the first table. Here, what is the data in the first table? 1, 2, 3. What is the data now used in the second table? 1, 2, 1. No problem. Repetitions can be there. One is repeated twice, right? Referential integrity allows that. Entity integrity doesn't allow the repeated values. Referential integrity allows the repeated values. Here ID can't be same, right, for two persons. That's why referential integrity allows the duplicate values. Entity integrity won't allow the duplicate values. You can see what are the values as used in the department table. Those are the values that are in the employee table only. Here 1, 2, 3 is there, right? I used 1 to 1. I can't use 4. Why I can't use 4 in the ID of the department table? I can't use 4 in the ID attribute of the department table means ID is 4 is not in the employee table. You can see 1, 2, 3 is there, but 4 is not there in the employee table. So that's why I can't use 4 in the department table also. If 4 is there in the employee table, then I can use that 4 in the department table. But 4 is not there, so I should not use that. Values can be repeated, but value that is not there in the first table can't be used in the second table. So this is referential integrity. So hope you understood, guys. Suppose if you have any doubts, no worries, please post your doubts in the comment section. I will solve your doubts, right, guys? So next advantage is permitting inferencing and actions through rules, right? So to explain this in a very simple manner, I will take up these examples. So for example, in a database I can specify some rules. For example, remove duplicate values. So while creating the database or while updating the database, I can specify rules. I will explain that in detail in the coming sessions. So I can specify rules like this. See, remove duplicate values, display the ID only if it has 3 digits. Like that I can specify rules. So and these rules can be automatically right executed using triggers. Triggers means nothing but these are like triggers are small codes. Triggers, what they will do means they will automatically execute the rules. You don't need to manually execute the rules. If you include these rules using a triggers, what happens means triggers. For example, when a user tries to enter the 3 digits, trigger, what it does means automatically it will delete the 3 digits ID, or it will notify the user, yes, you can't do that. Constraints manually you have to include, right? But triggers you can include the triggers automatically, no problem. Rules will you can include the rules within the triggers and it will be executed without any problem. So this is nothing but permitting actions through rules. See, I'm telling the database actions, I'm telling the database what to do through rules. See, I'm telling the database to remove the 3 digits ID using triggers. I will explain triggers. It's a vast concept in the coming sessions. Getting guys, it's very simple. In the simple words, I can tell that using the rules, I can automatically do whatever I want using the triggers. And procedures are nothing but small codes. It will be stored procedures. I can call this as stored procedures that will be stored in the database. What they will do means when trigger happens, these stored procedures automatically they will execute it. So along with the triggers, I can use stored procedures also to store the rules. I can use these two approaches to tell the database, right, to what to do, to tell the database what to do, to tell the database what action it should take, right, using this type of rules. Getting, guys? Hope you understood the concepts, guys. Suppose if you have any doubts, please post your doubts in the comment section.